All right, peace be upon you, ladies and gentlemen. How are you? Now, in today's video, I just want to reflect on. I was thinking, I've just been chewing on the idea of what it means to live a successful life. What does it mean to truly live a fulfilling life? And oftentimes we can maybe feel insecure because we don't have the attention and approbation that many other people do. And sometimes I felt insecure as well. I have a very small channel. I know I'm shadow banned. I use too many keywords like flat earth and other things, which causes the algorithms to automatically shove my videos to the bottom of every search engine. I know. Type up eyes wide open in your YouTube feed. You're not going to find me. It's very hard to find me. And when you see people who are more famous, they have more eyes on them, like, I don't know who comes to mind, Andrew Tate, Sneeko, excuse me, not Sneeko, what was the other one, Tristan Tate, all these Dawa channels, Muhammad Hijab, Ali Dawa, whatever, and not to toot my own horn, but I genuinely believe I have a lot more quality content than them. I think that a lot of people would benefit from my work and my reflections. I really do think so. But when you see yourself having such a small sphere of influence, and even it could be because you don't have a channel at all, sometimes you can feel insecure that you're not as successful as them, but that's just a vain provocation of the Satan. What is a truly successful life? A truly successful life is somebody who does their duty and serves their Lord, does good deeds, works of reconciliation, and doesn't need the approbation and all of the fame that comes with it. They do it purely to honor their Lord. Now, if somebody gets famous, let's say if my channel somehow went viral by God's leave and I got like 1 million subscribers yesterday, that doesn't necessarily make me a failure, but it also doesn't make me not a failure. It's not about what's it called? What am I looking for? It's not about the attention you get, nor is it about how many voices you reach or how many ears your voice reaches. It's more so it's about the quality of your message and trying to do the best within your own sphere. What is a successful life? A successful life would be somebody who, and by the way, quickly, I want to say a lot of these people like Sneeko and Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and Andrew Tate, these guys get famous because they do and say very risky stuff. Or they have a big platform behind them, lots of money behind them, either the Sunni religion or Andrew Tate. He'll just say so many stupid, wild, out-of-pocket things just for the attention that it brings him, attention whoring. But a truly successful, manly, godly man won't whore himself out for attention. He'll speak the truth. He'll put out his quality messages, and whoever pays attention, pays attention. It's not about the numbers to him. He's ultimately just doing it to please his Lord. And, what would be the example of a successful life? Let's say somebody who believes in God, does good deeds. They don't have any YouTube channel. Nobody knows them. They live in a small town. They get involved in their community. Like, I don't know, maybe they go to the local food bank and they make food packages for homeless people. Let's say they put the idolatry aside. Let's say they participate in their local mosque. Assuming, let's say it was not idolatry, which I do not recommend you go to the mosque because the Sunni religion is idolatrous. It's shirk, it's not Islam. But let's say, theoretically speaking, you had a small Quran alone mosque, or even just like a Quran alone community of 3, 4, 5 people in your area, and you just contributed to that. Let's say you go to your local YMCA and you help youth who have trouble staying off the street. They're selling drugs, they're getting in fights, and you just organize dodgeball games and basketball games with them. Little stuff. Those are the unsung heroes. Those are the true heroes, in my opinion. Those are the really valuable people. The people who do good and valuable work, but they don't do it for the fame and the fortune that comes with it. They just do it out of their feeling of inclination towards the Lord and trying to please the Lord. Our minds are just polluted and rotted with this fame culture, this famous culture. Like, if you don't have an Instagram, you don't have 1 million followers on Instagram, you don't have a big YouTube channel, then you're not successful. Or let's say you have a YouTube channel, you try to spread the truth to as many people as possible, but it's just not very big. It doesn't grow. People see that as unsuccessful. Oh, you're a lame, you're a no-show. But is that really the case? The heroes are the people who do their duty in silence, and they don't spice up their content with unnecessary filler or unnecessary drama just to get extra attention. We don't need the attention. As long as my Lord is looking at me, I have the attention of God. God is approving of my actions. I'm happy. That's the mentality of a man. That is the mark of a true successful life. Being there for your family, being there for your kids, teaching them the ways of the Lord, weaning them on the law, setting for them a good example, purging the sinfulness and the bad things in our character, the bad habits we have, the bad thoughts, the fight against Satan, in silence doing those things. That is what I call heroism. That is the Quranic man. We shouldn't be chasing after this vain glory and serving ourselves. It doesn't matter. So, if any of you feel insecure of not having a channel, or let's say you do have a channel and it's not that popular, you don't have as many eyes on you, just understand that doesn't truly make you a hero. The heroes are the people in the background. The heroes are the people helping out their community. I encourage you guys, get involved with your communities in your area. Go help the homeless people. Find somebody in downtown. There's always people in downtown. Give him charity. Give him a thing of figs or nuts or whatever. Get involved with your YMCA. There's always youth who are in trouble. They're, getting themselves in issues on the streets. Try to get involved with them. Maybe go try to hand out Qur'ans in prisons or whatever you can do. Just trying to be a worker of reconciliation within your sphere. Whether God gives you a large sphere, you have a big following, or whether God gives you a very small sphere, it doesn't matter. It's not like the person who has a very large sphere of influence is necessarily doing better for you or better than you. It's just not the case. God measures each people's deeds according to their circumstance, according to the ability he's given them, according to the, God knows that if we could influence more people, we would, but we can't for whatever reason. And sometimes God withholds that high level of influence from us, maybe because it would get to our head, maybe because we would be egotistical. We would think we're on top of the world. Who knows? God knows best. If I had the fame of Andrew Tate, maybe it might come to my head a little bit if I had the fame and money. And God is withholding those things because it's better for me to stay as a small channel. Maybe if all that money was rolling in and, I'm thankful that the money I make is not really tied to my channel, and there are people who help me out, and I thank God for them. I thank God for you guys. May God bless you. But ultimately, my survival and feeding me and feeding my wife, it's not dependent upon my YouTube channel. I have a job. I'm recording this video right now on my lunch break, and that means I don't have the temptation to compromise my message or to water down my message because my income is reliant on it. My income is reliant on a separate job, so that means I can pretty much say what I want to here on YouTube because it's not going to affect the food that I'm bringing to the table for me and my wife. So maybe it's better that I don't have that kind of fame and fortune. See, God knows what's best for us, and God knows who are the real heroes. Just being a good father, being a good example for your kids, being a pillar in your community, getting involved, talking to people in your own sphere, friends, family, people around you, just spreading the message of God. The Quran says there is no safety except in the communication of God and his message. That's what I'm calling you guys to be. Be the unsung heroes and turn away from all the vain glory and fame, because you wouldn't even believe how insecure these people are deep down, how compromised they feel, many of them. I know for a fact Muhammad Hijab, he knows that the Sunni religion isn't the full truth. I know that. He's read the Quran enough. He knows the Arabic. He knows that the religion he teaches and supports, which gives him the funding and the help he uses to rocket his platform to great stardom and fame, he knows that there are many things they teach which are outside of the Quran, which contradict the Quran, but he keeps himself shut on that. And no matter how much fame and fortune you get, it's not worth your integrity. Not at all. Andrew Tate knows he says some wild, ridiculous, out-of-pocket stuff which he knows is not true, but he does it for the fame and fortune. These people, live your life in a way where when the lights are off and nobody's around you, your wife is asleep, your kids are asleep, and you're all alone in that bed, you feel comfortable with yourself. That's how you want to live your life. And whether that brings fame or not means nothing. It means nothing. Silent duty, I would say, silent divine duty, silent fulfillment of divine obligations without the need for approbation. I would define that, or I would say that's a good definition for what it means to be a hero. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, That's really all I got to say on the matter. I hope this talk was a blessing. And yeah, peace to you. Remember, deceit abounds, so keep your eyes wide open. Peace out. Peace and blessings in the name of the Most High, viewer. My name is Walid Naeem, and I am a zealous submitter to the one true God, the creator of all mankind. Do you notice something wrong with the world? Something strange? Despite us having a church, synagogue, and mosque in every neighborhood, how has this entire Western civilization fallen into abject atheism, nihilism, and savagery? Why does life just seem so dull, so meaningless, and so devoid of anything real in the Occidental world? Despite the ubiquitous presence of these religious institutions, why are our so-called Muslim sons in large numbers drinking, smoking, partying, and chasing after women, with no seeming desire to do anything more with their life other than satisfy their base pleasures, when God has commanded them to be clean, righteous, and responsible leaders of their community? And why are our hijabi so-called Muslim daughters walking around with tight jeans that reveal their figure, with TikTok accounts posting semi-provocative, self-absorbed videos of themselves online for the world to see, when God has commanded them to lengthen their garments and be modest in their mannerisms? What has happened here? These young men and women are supposed to be making themselves right before God while raising the next generation of ardent defenders of the holy faith. But it seems that Islam features no more in their lives other than a scarf on their head, a Friday fidgeting around in the mosque when their parents forced them to go against their will, or a decorative hanger in their car. At this rate, if God allows us to continue going down the road it is, then Islam and the Quran will become pretty much non-existent in the lives of most of our descendants, if it wasn't already non-existent now. If we do not take a stand soon, in a few generations, our children's children will likely be indistinguishable from the secular West. Is that the kind of world we want to live in? Our kids to live in? A world practically devoid of the remembrance of the one God and all things sane? I obviously can't speak for you, but for my own self, I can personally say, count me out of it. I'm not going to sit here and just watch my brothers and sisters, those who claim to believe in God alone, believe in Judgment Day, His prophets and angels, and all the other aspects of this holy creed, get duped into going to hell. I'm not going to let this happen without at least something of an effort on my end to reroute this dark trajectory. So, again, how in the world do we end up here? There is a mosque in practically every neighborhood in the West, and no shortage of donations that get dropped in their boxes. They have had lots of funding, lots of time, and unquestioning support from their respective congregations, yet somehow have been run over by the secular atheist. All of their so-called Muslim children go to the atheist, secular public schools for most of their week to be taught beliefs that are completely incompatible with the Quran. And we wonder why they have ended up the way they are. If these houses, and by these houses I mean the mosques, were truly of God, that were doing everything right, then why would our Lord let them get so decisively trampled upon by their enemies? Why do the wicked have all of the reins of power here? Clearly, something is not adding up. Well, it is my thesis here today that the vast, vast majority of mosques that exist in this world today have lost their way and follow a religion which is completely foreign to the Quran. This is why they have failed so miserably in the West, and it seems that God has forgotten them. In truth, the real reason behind their shortcoming is that they, and many of us, have forgotten God Himself, which is why He has left us here collecting our bitter receipts. So, what are my exact criticisms of the mosques today? As a Muslim and a man committed to the truth above all else, what are my personal gripes with their institution, which claims to be for God? The first glaring problem I can think of is that the majority of people who call themselves Muslim have allied themselves with a body of literature that is foreign to the Word of God, treating it equal to, and in fact above, the Quran itself. Of course, I am talking about the Hadith. Listen, the facts are this. There is no justification within the Quran which tells us to follow this Hadith stuff, which came hundreds of years after the Prophet Muhammad died, and therefore he could have had no ability to oversee what people have said about him and determine if it is true or false. It is now becoming crystal clear, especially in the last 10 to 20 years, that many, many things that have been ascribed to him in their most quote-unquote authoritative texts, which they call their Sahih Hadiths, are forgeries that directly contradict God's final revelation. To take these words of men, i.e. the Hadith, and hold them to be equally authoritative to the words of God would be breaking the first and most important commandment, which is to worship God alone, making no equals with him. To say that these supposed words of Muhammad, which are not even Muhammad's own words, but simply very doubtful rumors about what people who existed hundreds of years after him say he said, that have been decided upon by the scholars as authoritative holds equal, or in fact any weight in our faith comparable to the verbatim words of God himself, the Holy Quran, is idolatry. You are exalting man's words to the status of divinity, which should only be given to God's words. Nothing comes even close to the Quran, because God, the creator of the heavens and the earth, is its author. This includes the Hadith too, which pales in comparison and is superfluous to the glorious Quran. If you are interested in seeing a full refutation of the Hadith, you may watch my video titled A Defense of Prophet Muhammad, David Wood and Hadith Exposed, which is linked below. In it, along with refuting and putting in his place the worst opponent of Islam on the internet, Mr. David Wood, I also expose how the Hadith is completely contradictory to the Quran and the source of much of the Muslim world's problems. It is a 2-hour-long documentary where I seek to demonstrate the true character of Muhammad in the Quran, defending his history and personality with primary source quotations. I clear the last prophet of God's name from the people who have tarnished his reputation the most, which are certain types of Christians, and, sad to say, Hadith-following Muslims, which have said many terrible things about him. No, Muhammad was not a money-hungry, tyrannical warlord who married a 6-year-old girl. He was a shy, humble, meek man who married adult women, had compassion for even his worst enemies, and oftentimes had a tough time even standing up for himself out of fear of hurting other people's feelings. This is all demonstrated in detail in my video. Once again, the link for that will be in the description under the tab, The True Character of Muhammad in the Quran. So that is the first problem with the mosques, the reason for which I feel they have been forsaken by God, their adoption of an apostate literature which contradicts their foundational scripture. The second point of contention I have with many of the mosques is their seeming unwillingness to say anything controversial which may make them face persecution from their government. The fact that 9/11 was not only an inside job, but the fact that no planes hit the Twin Towers on that day, and the whole charade was a hoax designed by the governments of the world to forever frame the Muslim people as terrorists and justify invasions in our countries, should be taught to every man, woman, and child. This great fraud of the September attacks has left such a lasting, enduring reputation on every brown person, and Muslim in general, that it should be discussed in every mosque. Our people are not responsible for that crime, but it was the governments of the world who carried out that plot and framed us for it. 9/11 is just only one small example, though. There are many, many other quote-unquote conspiracy theories, which are really just conspiracy facts, avoided by the mosques due to their controversy, like the fact that the monetary system in the West is an ungodly scam based on usury, the fact that the so-called healthcare system is a predatory empire which doesn't try to cure anybody, but instead makes money off of human suffering, the fact that sodomite propaganda is being promoted to the masses, including our children, and the fact that the thing which I will call the C-19er, to avoid censorship, was a hoax perpetrated by the powers that be to greatly expand their police state, censorship incentives, and surveillance systems worldwide in order to create their New World Order, and much more. These governments that have occupied our lands are de facto terrorist regimes, and the mosques seem to say nothing of it. They appear to be more concerned with not being labeled extremists while they live their comfortable, well-funded lives, avoiding topics that are hard to deal with due to the abject persecution they bring. That is my second problem with them. They're at the very least lack of awareness, or if not, perhaps lack of willingness to address the real geopolitical situation going on in the world. And lastly, my third trouble with the mainstream mosques, which can also be put into the category of conspiracy facts, is their complete ignorance on the true nature of the earth. It may sound as a shock to you, my viewer, that the Quran, the Bible, and in fact all of the ancient scriptures teach the earth is flat and stationary. This is the only model of the world which is compatible with those texts and also scientifically provable. This flat earth conspiracy, which should really be called the globe earth conspiracy, is one of the biggest lies of the modern world, we are told, and goes in line with what I said earlier about the endemic corruption of the governments of the world. Everything you have been told about where you live is a fabrication, and the space agencies are a shameless hoax. For a fully detailed presentation on the subject of flat earth, where I demonstrate the science, the history, the philosophy, the verses in the Bible and Quran proving it, and much more, you can read my book titled The Flat Earth Manifesto, which is linked in the description. This work runs to nearly 1,200 pages and is practically a textbook on not only the topic of flat earth, but the subject of physics proper, and I expose the biggest fraudulent religion of the West, which is science worship, otherwise known as scientism. As with all of my work, it too is available for free. No, you do not live on a pathetic speck of dust spinning around in the middle of nowhere in space. You live in a brilliant, intelligently designed terrarium created by God and are at the center of the universe. Again, to learn more, the link to the Flat Earth Manifesto will be in the description. Those right there are my 3 biggest scores against the mosques of today. There are more points I could bring up, but these are the major ones. These are the controversies which have estranged me from the rest of the so-called Muslim world. Believe me when I say that I would love to join them, and that it hurts me so deeply that I have to pit myself up against the very institution I was born and raised in, the mosques I attended from childhood, whose carpets upon which I walked, stood, prayed, and listened to the preaching in my earliest years. But that is the price to pay for the truth. My commitment to God and what is right is more important than my emotional attachments to a place that was once dear to my heart. Simply put, this is why I think God has forsaken us. This is why I think that the mosques have been steamrolled by the secular atheist. It is because most of us have abandoned the word of God, neglected preaching the truth, and instead chosen comfort over courageous action. That is my thesis to why this great falling away in the West has taken place. If this sounds shocking to you, if it sounds so unbelievable that the majority of the so-called Muslim world could be deceived so badly, then I simply have these verses in the Quran to show you. In the name of God, the Almighty and the Merciful. Chapter 6, verse 116. And if thou obey most of those upon the earth, they will lead thee astray from the path of God. They follow only assumption, and they are only guessing. Chapter 25, verse 30. And the messenger will say, O my Lord, my people took this Quran as a thing abandoned. God has really predicted this a millennia ago. He knew that the people who follow what is really right are few and far between, that the majority of men and women are led astray, and the people who claim to love Muhammad the most, i.e. mainstream Muslims, would abandon the glorious Quran. God has revealed to us 1,000 years ago that this all would be the case. It is my mission, therefore, by the will of God, to band together with like-minded believers who have understood the truth and work together to build a new institution from the ground up, founded upon prudent fear. We need to start fresh, start anew. We need to build a new mosque where people can hear the unfiltered preaching from the Quran alone, where men and women can get married, where children can play and be educated in the truth, and where the name of the Most High God, without any associate partners, can be remembered. We need a group of highly dedicated men who will raise and defend this institution with their own hands if need be, and go out into the world warning people of the punishment of God, bearing witness to the truth of his oneness. That is my mission, my viewer. If you found that this mission of mine has touched your heart and is something you want to get involved with, then feel free to contact me in the email below. I am located in Ontario, Canada, and I'm looking forward to form a community with like-minded believers who want to contribute to this great cause. I am neither a nationalist nor racially biased. If you follow the Quran alone and believe in the truth, then as far as I'm concerned, you are my brother in the faith. I prefer you over someone of my own kindred who denies God and commits corruption in the earth. My loyalties are primarily ideological, not racial. Remember, my viewer, that this life is short. Everything we do and don't do is recorded by God and will either bear witness for us or against us on the day of judgment. Hell is eternal, and I do not know about you, but as for me, I want to meet my Creator in the best state possible. I want to spend my life struggling to build up my people, the true Muslims, so that God may be pleased with me on that day. If you are interested in that, then feel free to join me. If not, then find something else good to do which will prepare you for your appointment with the Most High. That is where we are all going anyway. With that being said, I say peace and God bless to all of you good people. Take care, everyone.